Hey everybody, it's Jordanplayspickle back at it again with another review. I want to apologize first that I haven't made a video in a while, but I'm glad to be back. I just want to be able to take a little more time with some of the reviews moving forward to make sure that my thoughts on the paddle as well as the quality of the paddle long term has been taken into consideration so we can get a better product for all of you who watch these reviews. Another thing that's exciting is a life update happening is that I'm about to be a dad for the first time in the next couple of months. So while that's a very exciting event, it also takes a lot of time to prepare for something like that. So we're hoping to continue to still make these videos during this season, but it might be a little more sporadic here and there. I am very excited for today's video. I think it's a paddle that a lot of you are gonna like, and that paddle, of course, is the Shogun by Bread & Butter. First off, let's just take a quick look at this paddle. One thing that I've struggled to capture is just the fact that this paddle is so shimmery in person. It's hard to see, but it really does glow and light up. In addition to this, Bread & Butter did a great job with just little accents like the end cap, as well as words on the side to make this paddle really stand out from the crowd. It also had a great unboxing experience. You got a lot of stickers, you got a koozie. I didn't get the hot sauce, but I did get a paddle cover, and it really just was a great experience all around, as well as there is a little story that you can read in Google Translate on the inside of the box, which is really funny. I think Bread & Butter is one of the small companies that is doing it right, making good quality paddles, but also making the unboxing experience a lot of fun. And I think it's something a lot of the major pickleball companies can learn from, because the Yolas, the Selkirks, their unboxing is basically nothing. You just unwrap a paddle and that's it. So it's good to see small companies really taking advantage of the opportunity they have to make it something special when you get a new paddle. We're gonna go over the stats for this paddle really quick. And of these stats, there's one that really I wanna mention that sticks out, and that is the swing weight of 120. I feel that this number is a little higher than it might indicate for this paddle. It does have a heavier face at the bottom here, which might lead to that higher swing weight, and it is a heavy paddle, but I do think that it plays a little higher than that number might indicate. Going on from the pure stats, we're going to talk about what makes this paddle unique, especially compared to the Filth, which is the other elongated shape by Bread & Butter. And it is this new face mainly, this new carbon fiber and titanium weave blend face material that they have going on here. And while it might seem like a small change, I really do think that this makes a big difference. It provides a little less power than the Filth, but I think it's very on par with the Filth as far as that goes, but much stronger pop and control in my mind. I also don't think that titanium is a gimmick. I think that it is a very unique and satisfying feel that many of you are going to like a lot. Some of you might dislike it, so give it a shot if you can, but I think it's something that does feel very unique, and a lot of other companies will probably copy from this point on. Like I said, it might provide a little bit less power, but I think it's very in line, but it has a lot of pop and control, and it makes flicks and backhands feel especially fun with that pop. Another thing that makes it a really fun paddle compared to the Filth, as far as differences go, is that it's a much softer paddle than the Filth, and it gives this really satisfying, almost springy feeling because of the titanium. Now, don't think trampoline effect like the Gen 3s have. It's not anywhere near that much power, but it's a really satisfying springiness that makes third shot drops in particular feel very satisfying. Another thing that I think makes this paddle unique is it's very control oriented. Now, let me stipulate, I don't think that this is by any means a pure control paddle, but it is a great all-around, all-court paddle that leans into being much easier to control. I just wanted to briefly talk about how I felt about the sweet spot on this paddle, and I felt that it was pretty good for an elongated shape. I think that compared to the Filth especially, it felt a little more plush and made those shots a little easier, so it's hard to tell how much the face is doing that for the paddle, but I did feel good responsiveness and felt that it had a pretty good sweet spot for that shape of paddle. The twist weight on this comes in at about 6.2, and I think that it might play a little higher than this, but of course those are always hard to judge exactly how much that twist weight attributes to a good solid feeling paddle. But in my opinion, I really like this face material, and I think that it led to a really comfortable feeling response from the paddle itself. Overall, I really like the feeling of this titanium and carbon fiber blend. It gives a familiar feeling, but also gives a really nice, plush, satisfying feel for your drops, for your control-oriented shots, as well as your flicks and some of your other more poppy shots that you might take. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the areas I thought were a little harder with this paddle, so let's talk about those quick. One thing I want to mention is this is a larger shape taper here at the bottom, so your two-hand, you do lose a little bit of space for that, so it makes it a little harder than the Filth as far as controlling this with two-handed. So if you have a two-handed backhand that you really like, this might be something to consider. I would also say that spin was good on this paddle, but I wouldn't say it was the best I'd ever felt. And maybe this combined with the shape led to this feeling, but I felt that it was oftentimes a little harder to dig the ball out of a difficult situation, especially when you were trying to counter something like a lot of backspin. I felt like I had to give it a little more effort. Another thing that's a little hard coming from Gen 3 down is that this paddle is a little bit more adaptive, meaning that it has a lot of pop at the line, but doesn't necessarily have the most power I've ever felt when doing your regular strokes from the back line. So I found myself often in the mid-court taking a shot and not getting quite the response that I was used to with a more powerful paddle. So it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it is definitely something that takes a little bit of getting used to. So those were kind of the things I thought were hard, mainly the digging out and trying to counter hard backspin being a little more difficult, and then just getting used to and adjusting to the feel of this paddle, being that it's a very poppy paddle while not being necessarily the most powerful paddle on the market. I do think that it gives you a lot of options and opportunities to play with this paddle the way that you want to, and if you're coming from a Gen 1 paddle, this should be a much easier way to adjust, especially if you're coming from another Gen 2 thermoform paddle. This will be a very familiar feeling paddle overall. Before we go to my overall thoughts on this paddle, I do want to quickly mention my QC quality control. Now that I've had this paddle a few weeks, I haven't had any issues with breaking, except for I do have a slight rattle on my paddle. I don't know if you can hear that, but that is just from loose glue that has now fallen kind of in between the polypropylene of the core. So you might hear it. It's a little unfortunate, but it does not mean that the paddle is broken by any means. Another unique, I wouldn't say it's an issue necessarily, but another unique aspect of this paddle is because it has this gorgeous face with so much going on, it's oftentimes a little hard to tell when the paddle is dirty. So I found myself just checking it more often to see if it's dirty or clean or not, because it's really hard to tell. Yeah, my overall feelings on this paddle are very positive, and even though it may seem like a small difference to just change the face material from the Filth, I do feel that the Shogun is, in my opinion, a huge difference in your playstyle, and for me, it's a huge upgrade. I think we've gotten to a really good point where the tech behind thermoform paddles has been refined quite a bit, and that gives us as consumers the ability to pick and choose what we want to prioritize, which is a fun place to be in. Speaking of that prioritization, I would not recommend this paddle for someone who's seeking either pure power or pure control. I don't think this is either of those things, but I would find this paddle pretty easy to recommend to almost everybody else. I would say this paddle is very much an all-court paddle that leans towards control, which is a very unique place to be, and I think it's one of my favorite all-court paddles since the double black diamond. It offers a very unique experience, a unique face material that you can't find anywhere else, and very satisfying response while still having a lot of pop to keep you in play and keep you in points at the line. I think Bread and Butter has really done a great job with the Shogun and has done a great job at diversifying their high-end paddle lines while still having fun, still making it a good experience, and still making something that is very consumer oriented. If you are interested in this paddle, it does have a higher starting cost at $189, but you can bring that quite a bit down with my code JORDANPLAYSPICKLE, as well as many of the other codes on the market. This paddle is not in stock quite yet, but will be in stock regularly starting in July. And if you are interested in any of the things I mentioned, whether it be the new titanium face, whether it be the nice unboxing experience, or whether it be getting yourself a good all-court paddle that has some unique aspects to it, I would strongly recommend the Shogun. I think it's one of my favorite paddles I have played with in a long time, one that I keep coming back to, and one that I like more and more as I get used to the ways that it plays. That's really all I got for you. This is a quick one, but a fun one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any more specific questions, please write those below in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a like. That always helpful, or a subscription if you really feel inclined to. But I appreciate any comments, any critique that you have, and I appreciate this community so much. I'm excited to keep making videos. God bless. Peace out.